Curious George's podcast, conversations with high-performing leaders exploring remarkable careers and lives beyond the ordinary.
Welcome back to episode 3 of the Curious George's podcast. We have another exciting episode planned today, but first we'll kick off with our Pits and Peaks segment. Let's get going.
Yeah. Okay, pits. I've been thinking about this. It was really hard for me to think of something. The only pit that I could think of is that I'm a little bit anxious because my dog's having surgery next week.
Yes.
So that's kind of been on my mind. It's not really like a pit, but it's kind of the only downside.
It's been in the back of your head for a while.
Yes, so hopefully that goes well, fingers crossed. My peak was probably first week back pre-season.
Yeah.
And it was just great to see everybody, and we went surfing.
Yeah.
And it was just all around great time. I've had a pretty good week actually. I could probably pick about 5 different peaks, but better choose the first week.
Yeah, that's really good. No, it was definitely fun to be back with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Finally having some training buddies. And yeah, so my peak was kind of along the same lines. I chose my peak as the surfing.
Oh yeah.
And I actually stood up despite the waves being like yay high.
I think that made it better though, right?
Yeah, no, it was fun. And yeah, I think everyone got up at least once.
Yeah, I think they did.
So it felt successful, and which made it more fun.
Yes. And it was hard.
Yeah. We had some gnarly conditions out there, as the surfers might say.
I really did.
But yeah, so that was my peak. And then my pit was attempting to export our previous episode.
Oh yeah, we had technical
It was
difficulties.
a bit of a nightmare, and I got quite frustrated. But
hopefully this one works better.
yeah, hopefully it works better, and we managed to get the audio up, so that's all right. We've still got something out for the listeners.
And at least we have a backup so that if it doesn't work, we've at least got the audio.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the audio seems to export easier. But we're learning. It was only episode 2.
Yeah.
So we'll get there. All right. So we have an exciting guest on today. As you may have guessed, it is the one, the only, Georgia Takarangi. Woo. Silver Fern number 180, Magic Player 102, a bachelor's degree in exercise science and psychology, a master's degree in health, sport and human performance, and currently on the path towards becoming a clinical psychologist. Wow. A dog mum to Mako and Whiki, wife to Raniera, and now co-host of the Curious George's podcast, and one of my best friends, Georgia Takarangi. It's great to have you on the podcast again.
It's great to be here.
It's roles reversed, so
yeah.
I get to interview George, which is cool. Like we are going to start all our podcasts with this question. What curious mean to you?
Well, so kind of similar to what you said last week, but I was thinking that I've done some values work, and one of my values is growth. So for me, that is, like always learning and always trying to find out new things and always trying to be better. And so I think that being curious kind of fits into that. And I actually think that, like, obviously we chose the Curious Georges because it started off as a joke, and we've kind of made it fit what we want it to fit.
Exactly.
But I kind of feel like it's quite a good way of looking at, the way that I try and always learn new things, because it's like curiosity rather than like a you have to get better kind of. It's like a forever growing process, I guess. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, for sure. I can testify that George is a forever lifetime learner, I think. Since I've known her, she's been studying something, whether it's at uni, a Māori course, a dog parenting course. She's always learning, which is what we love to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love learning. I always joke that if I won lotto, that I'd become the most decorated.
You just keep studying a new degree.
I'd become like the person with the most degrees in the world.
You'd have a lot of letters behind your name.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's get into the nitty-gritty a little bit. Similar to what you asked me on the last episode to start us off, but what do people need to know or should know about your upbringing or childhood that has made you who you are, Georgia, today?
Great question. So I grew up in Auckland. My family are both from Hamilton, but I grew up in Auckland, did all of my schooling in Auckland. When I was, I want to say 5, my parents divorced, and I'm very lucky that I never saw them fight or any of that. So, like, to this day, they're still very amicable. That we're really lucky. But my brother was kind of my rock through that because he was kind of like my constant. So I've got an older brother who's 31. He lives in South Korea with his wife and his new baby boy, Dante. Yes, but he was kind of my rock, and we're really close. He's like my best mate, and we were lucky to have each other, I think, because even though like my parents didn't fight or any of that, like it's still hard going between homes.
Definitely.
And so I went to Chelsea Primary School, which is on the North Shore in Auckland, and Birkdale Intermediate, so kind of in the Bronx a little bit, and then Northcote College. But I'm kind of grateful because you know, as a tall person, you kind of get pushed into playing a tall sports or playing netball. So I felt like I got to try a lot of different sports and wasn't pushed into netball at a young age. Then I met my husband when I was 18. I met him when I was still kind of a child, I guess.
Yeah. You've grown up together.
Yeah, we've kind of grown up together. And like the reason I kind of brought that up as well is because my dad met my stepmom when I was maybe 7 or 8. And so she is amazing. And I've had 2 younger siblings. So my little sister's 16, Madison, and my little brother is nearly 13, Norton. They still live in Auckland. And so I kind of have 3 mums because I have my own mum and my stepmom, and then my husband Rania's mum, Leslie, because she's kind of been there my whole adult life.
Yeah.
So very lucky to have 3 amazing maternal role models.
Yeah, for sure.
I think like my dad, he's quite a successful businessman now, but when I was growing up, he was working really hard to get where he is. So I got to witness him being a really, really hard worker. And kind of on the flip side of that, because he was working so hard, my mum would be the one that would take us to all of our extracurricular activities, take us to Dad's house so that we could be there 50-50, drive us everywhere. And so she kind of worked hard in a different way.
Yeah.
And did everything for us. He was doing everything so he could provide for us, and she was doing everything so that we could do whatever we wanted at the time. So, very grateful for them, but I think that's why I'm a hard worker.
Yeah. Sounds like they had the co-parenting sorted.
Yeah, definitely.
To make your guys' lives the best.
Definitely.
They could be.
And I think that's something, that I'm very grateful for. And then, my stepmom, Nikki, just kind of slotted perfectly into that. She was amazing, and she still is amazing. I needed to move back to Hamilton in 2018, beginning of 2018, to play professional rugby for Waikato Rugby Union, and I moved down later that year to follow him once I finished my bachelor's degrees. And we've been in Hamilton ever since, and
set up shop here.
Now we own a home, and we're married, and we have 2 dog babies. They're kind of filling the void until we get real babies. They're just as much trouble and just as much money, I think.
Yeah, just as much training and work.
Yeah.
We've kind of mentioned 2 big parts of your life in your previous question that take a lot of time up for you. So we've got netball and your athletic career, and also your academic endeavours and your future career off the court. So first we'll just chat about your netball journey. I know it hasn't been a straight line or a conventional journey to get to where you are today, having played a cap for the Silver Ferns and over 50 for Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that netball journey and how you have gotten to where you are today, starting your 5th season with Magic?
Yeah. Sure. So I mentioned in the last question that we moved to Hamilton in end of 2018, and at that time I had never made any rep teams. I had trialed but never kind of made them, and throughout my studies I was still playing club netball, and back then it still is very strong up there, but back then there wasn't any now, so I feel like all the players that are in any now were playing club, so it made it even stronger.
Yeah.
So I was quite lucky that all of the coaches who kind of wanted to be in ANZ and all the players kind of played in club, and so
trying to put their best foot forward there.
Yeah, and so I feel like I learned a lot of some really good coaches and players up in Auckland, and one of my coaches, Vipika Puri, she knew MJ Aroa, who was the coach at the time of in and out team, and she said, "Hey, I've got this 23-year-old who's moving down. You would have never heard of her before, but just give her a chance." And luckily, MJ was like, "Okay, come to trials," and I went to trials, and then I didn't actually make the team. I was a training partner for my now best friend Emily, who had injured her foot, and I remember getting really upset when I found out I hadn't made the team. So I didn't realize how much I actually kind of wanted it, because it was kind of my last shot. And it was Raniera who convinced me to go, and was kind of like, you don't have anything to lose. Worst case scenario, you're still, in
the environment, learning.
Yeah, exactly. And then when I got upset and told him that I wanted to be in the team, he was like, "Well, you still have an opportunity to, you've got 6 weeks, just work really, really hard and make it really hard for them to drop you," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember being in a meeting with MJ, and everyone was going around saying their goals for the season, and obviously I wasn't meant to be in the team for the whole season, so I just said, "My goal is that you don't drop me." And it was like super scary, like, me, I don't really like confrontation. Not that that's confrontation, but like putting
yourself out there.
Yeah. And I remember MJ loves that stuff. She was like, "Okay." And then there was an injury, and so I ended up getting in the team, but then I didn't play the first few games, and then there was another injury, and I got to be selected for the 10. And then pretty much from there I was the starting goalkeeper for the team, and then the following year I was the co-captain with Ali, and then by that stage I was 25 end of that season, and I was kind of like more in a teacher's role than a learner's role. So I kind of wanted to either try get into ANZ or be like, okay, that's fine, I'll move on to the next step of my career. Now I played representative netball,
exactly,
tick the box I didn't think I'd tick. And luckily Amy Jean Metcalf, who was the coach of Magic at the time, wanted to have a meeting with me, and then they offered me a contract like a week later.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah,
it's a testament to, like you say, you just have to take your opportunities when they come. Like, it's harsh, but someone's injury or misfortune is another person's opportunity to go in there and grab it with 2 hands, which you obviously have done.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
And you can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah.
Or like put yourself out there and tell them that that's what you want.
Exactly.
Like, it's super scary.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, worst case scenario, like.
Yeah, you've got nothing to lose.
Exactly.
At the end
You're just in the same position you were in before. So.
Exactly. And so you continued with Magic. Was it in your first season that you made the New Zealand development squad?
It was after my first season, and that was the year they introduced the fitness standards. And so a few of the girls got sent home, and so they needed people who were over the fitness standards to come and
fill in the numbers.
Yeah, pretty much make up numbers. And so, another time when you kind of like preparation meets opportunity, because I was fit enough. It was kind of like a breakout season.
Yeah.
And then went along. And so I wasn't originally named in the development squad, but I ended up on
another opportunity from someone's misfortune, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's harsh to say, but at the end of the day, that's how it is. It's pretty cutthroat.
It is cutthroat
in high performance environments.
Yeah, I was selected in the development squad, and then that's when we had all those lockdowns in Auckland, but nowhere else for COVID-19. and that's how, again, I kind of was in the right place at the right time because I was visiting. So I think there was a lockdown in Hamilton too, but I was in Taranaki visiting Raniera's family and got a call from Knowles. A few of the defenders are locked down.
Where are you?
Where are you? You're gonna? Yeah, I was like, I'm in Taranaki. She was like, great. Tomorrow you're going to be flying to Christchurch, and yeah, that's pretty much how I got like involved with the Ferns for my first series.
Crazy stuff.
Crazy stuff.
And so you debuted against England.
Yes.
In Christchurch.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was pretty surreal in that I wasn't expecting it. Like I wasn't even expecting to get any game time when I was down there. I was just kind of like happy to be in the environment and
soaking it up.
Yeah, I got like named in the 12, but I was like, there's 12 people, so I'm probably not going to get on the court. And then
thinking you're kind of 12th person.
Yeah, and Raniera flew down, but there was only 50 people allowed in the crowd because it was still kind of COVID time. So I was like, what if I don't get on? He was like, you still get to wear the dress, you still get to sing the national anthem.
You got your name on the back of the
dress.
Exactly,
like you still get to do the warm up, like it was an even game or like within 1 or 2 points, and she just needed a change, so she put me on with 6 minutes to go. So I didn't really have time to think.
Yeah, and I guess like they would know nothing about you.
Exactly.
England. So you're a point of difference to put in there and go mix things up in there. And at the end of the game, I think everyone who was there or watched it on TV would have seen Raniera doing a solo haka to you, which was pretty emotional actually.
Yeah, it was emotional. It was emotional. That was probably like my favourite part.
Yeah, that's definitely a big core memory, even for me. Yeah. I wasn't even there. And it wasn't even me on the court.
They were having an interview and you could like hear it in the background.
Yeah, that was amazing. But yeah, what a journey.
Very special. Bit of a journey, yeah. And now
and you're thriving. I'd say you're probably one of the vets in Magic at the moment.
Yeah, feeling like it. I feel like I mean, I'm still got heaps to learn, I think.
Exactly. We kind of discussed you taking opportunities with two hands when they come to you. Or also, from what I got out of that, you kind of created opportunities for yourself by putting yourself in the best position. And like you said, preparation is the key to success, I guess.
Yeah.
What is another kind of lesson or piece of advice that you've been given that's had a big influence on your netball career so far and where you are at this stage?
Oh, that's a great question. I think one of the main things, like if anyone who's listening has watched any of our games, you'll hear that I'm not the tallest defender.
The commentators love to throw that one in there.
Yeah. And I think, that along with the fact that my journey is a little bit different kind of has taught me the hard way a little bit that like not to compare your journey to somebody else's.
Yeah.
One of the things that the coaches that I've had have taught me is to play to my strengths and not try to be, like I play in the circle with Edina Makaire and she plays completely differently to me and we have like opposing strengths, but that's why we work so well together.
Yeah.
And if I was to compare myself,
fill in the gaps of each other.
Exactly. And so if I was to compare myself to her reach or her, like hops and stuff, like getting up to the hoop, like rather than me boxing out and then she gets the rebounds because she's closer to the hoop, it makes more sense.
Definitely.
And so I think the older I've gotten, the less I've been like, these are the things I'm lacking. I'm more like, these are my strengths, so work on those. Like still work on your weaknesses, obviously.
Yeah.
But within reason in terms of you can't change some of the things. Like I can't change how tall I am.
Yeah.
I can't change how long my arms are.
Yeah, exactly.
You
got to work with what you got.
Exactly.
Yeah, very true. So what I got from that is, and similar to what I kind of mentioned in the previous episode, that comparison is a killer sometimes. You can only compare you to you, really.
Exactly.
And like how you were last season, are you improving?
Yes.
Yeah. And also that work to your strengths.
Yeah.
is a big one, right?
And it makes it more like a more positive journey. Like you enjoy it way more when you're like, what am I good at?
A big part of that is actually understanding what your strengths are as well sometimes.
And also like, I think, with the weaknesses, figuring out what ones are going to move the needle the most.
Yeah.
There's like 1,000 things you need to work on and being like overwhelmed by it.
You can't work on everything.
No, exactly.
So we've chatted about your kind of netball journey and things on the court. Let's transition to off the court. I mentioned it in your intro. You've had a few bachelor's degrees, you've got a master's degree, and you're in the process of becoming a clinical psychologist. That's pretty impressive if you ask me. I've done one degree and that's enough. So can you tell us what kind of encouraged you to pursue a career in psychology and like obviously specifically clinical psych?
Yeah, well, my first year of uni in 2013, when you were probably like 10 or something, I did pre-med at Auckland University and absolutely hated it. It was really competitive and the only stuff I really liked was anatomy.
Yeah.
And so I changed to sports science, and in sports science you have to do some psych papers. And I had to do even another psych paper to kind of fill the stuff that I wasn't crossing over from pre-med.
Yeah.
And so my first semester doing my Bachelor of Science was pretty much all psych papers. And it was so much fun. Like I just loved it. Like, when you just know
it just clicks.
Yeah. I just find it so interesting how the brain works. So I've always really liked psychology. I thought I wanted to be a mental skills coach because I obviously really like sports science too, and I love sport, and I love the kind of combination of both of them.
Yeah.
And then it was actually Dom Batiste, who was our mental skills coach / sports psychologist for Magic in our first 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, first 3 years.
Who I was talking to, and he said that, like it's all good and well teaching people mental skills, but I wasn't going to him for mental skills. I was going to him for off-court stuff.
Yeah.
He was kind of the person who kind of convinced me, I guess, because he's a clinical psychologist. And like obviously I wanted to work with teams, but I wasn't really thinking of the bigger picture back then. Whereas the more I talked to him, the more he was kind of like, then you could work in a clinic while you have kids. You don't have to travel, all of that kind of thing. So kind of made sense. During that time, I had done my master's in sports psych, so I had done a thesis on how mental pressure affects netball shooting accuracy, and so sports psych kind of was still my interest.
Yeah.
Then he convinced me to do clinical psych, and then since then, I finished my master's in 2019, and then I started studying the prereqs for clin psych in 2021. So I had a little bit of a hiatus, which is when I did my Te Reo Māori papers and stuff.
Yeah. Like I say, forever learner.
Forever
never
learner.
stops.
No. And pretty much my first paper I did, I was like, this is what I need to be.
Yeah. Like
I knew straight away that
was your calling.
That was my calling, yeah.
That's so cool.
I also think that it's one of those things that you kind of need to come to later, not later in life, but like down the track a bit, because it's quite heavy, so now I'm leaning towards not even being involved in sport and just kind of not being involved in sport, but I think the thing I'm really passionate about is helping people.
Yeah.
My husband Anieta is a youth worker and he's studying to be a social worker, so our dream would be to own a clinic, a not-for-profit clinic that helps Māori communities, kids and adults, because there's just not enough help out there, and more like holistic well-being. So one of my roles at the university is as the welfare coordinator, where students get referred to me who have mild to moderate physical or mental health challenges, and they get put kind of on a program at UniRec Gym, and I kind of support them with like kind of life coach. So some people I give them kind of like a weekly routine to kind of get them into it. Sometimes I give them a bit of psych support. Sometimes it's like education around mindfulness or nutrition, and I really think that's the kind of psychologist I want to be, is someone who kind of looks at the whole order, not just
that holistic, like well-rounded approach.
Yeah, which is like, we're all human. So like if I said to you, here's some tools to kind of help your mental well-being, but you're only sleeping 4 hours a night, it doesn't really matter what tools I give you because you haven't slept enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I could talk about this stuff all day.
I know you could.
Hopefully we'll be able to learn some topics like throughout this podcast.
For sure.
Which should be interesting.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
I love it.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, you're doing WellFit, which is a mix of your two passions of like the wellness side and the physical exercise and the mental health. So what have you learnt while doing that? Have you learnt anything new while actually like kind of putting it into action?
It's interesting because obviously I've learned a lot of stuff, and some things you just kind of like take for granted, especially as an athlete. Like we just kind of know what we should eat and what we shouldn't eat and that kind of thing. I think like you don't realize how many people don't know like how much water to drink a day, or that, going to sleep at midnight every night isn't necessarily the best thing to do, So it is really rewarding in that you can make really big changes by giving them like small pieces of advice. I think each person teaches me something, because I've literally had like every single person's been pretty much a different combination of ethnicity, gender, mental health or physical health challenge. So like every single person is different. So it's teaching me how to kind of individualize my advice and help, I guess.
Tailoring it to their needs,
which is like a really, I think, valuable skill for me to have before I actually become a psychologist. But it's also teaching me how to balance my time because it's volunteer. So
very true. Well, that flows on nicely to my next question, or my final question. As we've learned throughout the past 30 or so minutes, you are a high achiever, and you're juggling a lot of balls. So how do you balance your time, either doing netball, working, studying, being a wife and a family member and a friend? How do you balance it all?
I don't really know, to be honest. No, I think
I do. She's got an extensive calendar.
I do have an extensive color coordinated calendar. Yeah.
That's unreal. You wouldn't believe it if you saw it.
I really like organization, and I think that's why the job I'm doing currently to like help supplement my netball career as sports coordinator. Pretty much, I just like organize things for a living. I really like organizing. I always have. My mum is really good at organizing. We've always loved stationery and lists and all that kind of thing. So I think that definitely helps. Like very type A personality. I thrive like with routine. So I think if I've got a good routine, then I'm okay. But I think like I'm one of those people who the more things I have, the better I am at being productive. If I have more time, I'm not usually very good at, because I'm like, oh, I'll just do it later. Like I'm quite a procrastinator, And
so you thrive when you're busy.
Kind of. I know that doesn't really make sense, but like I'm kind of like, well, I have to do my work now because I've got netball all day tomorrow. So like
get it done.
Yeah. This week I've done more work than I've done in the off season, I feel, because I've had to, because I have netball like a couple days a week. But I mean, I've got heaps of support, like, and every time I feel overwhelmed, like I'll message Georgie, I've got 1,000 tabs open in my brain, and she'll be like, you've got it, you can do this. And I'm like, yes. So I've got a really big support network, and my husband's really good. He pretty much does all of the cleaning and does like sorts the dogs out and all of that during netball season. And
legend.
Yeah, he is a ledge. So I don't really have an answer for that except for get a Google Calendar and color coordinate it.
I love it. That's great advice.
And I'm passionate about it all. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah. And it's all adding to your life in a good way. Yeah. I think that definitely gave us a very good insight into who Georgia is. Curious George.
Curious Georgia.
So we'll get into our quick fire questions. These will probably be more quick fire than mine were, because I think she's got it sussed. She actually knows herself. All right. Quick fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Gym or conditioning?
Gym.
Get those gains. Sweet or savoury? Tough one.
It's a tough one. I'm going to go savoury just because that's what our groups were at training this week.
Tasty, yeah. Love it. Summer or winter?
Winter.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's a new thing I've just learned.
I don't like being sweaty and
Fair
hot
enough.
at night. I love my sleep, and I feel like winter you sleep really well.
Yeah.
You can always put more clothes on, but there's only so many clothes you can take off. You know?
Exactly. Sunset or sunrise?
Sunset.
Nice. And then night out or stay in?
Stay in.
That was quick.
All day.
No contemplating that one. Love it. Those were great quick fires.
Nice.
Very speedy.
Thanks.
Maybe I should write more for you next time. All right. On to our outro segment. Recommendations. Off you go. Or do you have yours? I can go.
Oh, I did. Yeah,
you go.
No, you go.
No, you go.
No, I just remembered it.
So mine is not a form of media, and we kind of just chatted about it in your little chat.
Yeah.
But if you don't already write lists,
oh, great.
Write to-do lists. That's my recommendation. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
And I feel like it just declutters your brain.
Yeah. That's when I'm stressed, is when I don't have like one coherent list.
I like what you said about the tabs open in your head.
Mm.
When you put it on paper, your head just feels
You're
empty.
pressing the X on all the tabs.
Yeah. And sometimes I literally will write a list and write something down I've already done and cross it off just for the satisfaction of seeing it crossed off. Yeah. So that's my recommendation to help people get organised this year.
Nice. Love that. My recommendation is the Whoop.
Oh.
We haven't mentioned these yet.
We're Whoop sisters.
Whoop sisters. Cheers. We actually have majority of our team on Whoop.
Yeah.
Now.
Thanks to George.
Yeah. So I've been on Whoop for, I looked the other day, over 700 days. So what's that?
3 years?
3 years? Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I think I got it in October 3 years ago. And pretty much it's a recovery and fitness tracker. So it's not a watch.
Yeah. No screen.
No screen. It just does your, pretty much tracks your like heart rate, respiratory rate, sleep, all of those things. All the things that like Apple and Fitbit and stuff do, but it's just a little bit more accurate. And it's specifically for athletes and high performers.
Yeah. And probably a bit more in depth, right?
Bit more in depth, yeah. So I think we'll probably talk about it on one of the episodes.
We'll have an episode.
And yeah, it just has changed my life.
It's definitely, if you're you like data,
yeah,
and you're interested in tracking change over time, it's definitely a great asset.
It is. Yes, we love it. And stick around to find out more
about the Whoop. Fabulous. Okay, and our last segment is question of the episode. So I've got the question this time, and it is: if you didn't play netball, or you were a professional athlete in a different sport apart from netball, what sport would you choose?
I would choose esports.
You little gamer.
I was thinking about this, I mean, I could say other tall sports, as well, but I just feel like esporters make heaps of money. You get to play games. Like, I know we get to play games, but I get to play games. I just think it'd be so fun.
I love it. So,
Diablo.
Would you say a guilty pleasure of yours is gaming?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm a gamer girl. That's because I had older brother growing up. I had all boy cousins.
Yeah.
So we literally played outside or played games.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, that's a little quirk if you didn't know about George.
A little bit of a quirky quirk.
That's cool. So, esport for George.
Yeah.
I would do Okay, so I usually love team sports, but I'm thinking I've been watching the Australian Open
Oh,
currently,
tennis.
and I feel like tennis could be the one.
Nice.
You know, that
I can
change of
imagine
direction,
you.
agility,
Got
speed,
long arms to reach out to,
reach,
you know.
money.
Money.
If you're at the top, obviously.
We both mentioned money. Maybe like we're not like that, guys.
Well, I wish I was rich.
Yeah, I mean, it would solve my problems.
But yeah, I feel like tennis could be quite fun. Completely different to what we do now as netball players, but
which is the point, right?
Yeah.
If we chose basketball, that'd be kind of like
the same,
but
different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll choose tennis.
Nice.
Esport tennis. Keep an eye out in the future, guys. See me on the WTA
also,
tour.
I could do esport after netball because I don't feel like you have to be a certain age.
Yeah, you should be physically fit too. You can.
Well, maybe you do, Georgie, because you're in stressful situations.
Sorry. Mentally fit.
But
yeah, awesome. So that wraps us up for episode 3 of the Curious Georges podcast. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you very much.
Like, subscribe, follow.
Yes. We can't wait to have our next guest on, so keep an eye out on our Instagram to see who's coming up.
Yeah,
some exciting things ahead, so watch out. All right, ka kite, toodles.